General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, August 26 state that Ava Jerome will issue a threat following all of the Rick Lansing horror, while Jack Brennan will receive a dire warning. Anna Devane will also have a meltdown while attempting to protect Jocelyn Jacks. So here's what fans can expect. First, Lucy Coe will open up to Jen Sidwell, who assures her that they will find a solution. Sidwell may provide some assistance with Maxie Jones' coma and the job she is leaving behind at Deception. Unfortunately, if Sidwell is responsible for Maxie's medical struggle, he may also be harboring a big secret. Sidwell may have planned Maxie's poisoning in order to reveal alarming information later on. In the meantime, Brennan will become enraged as he issues a fatal warning. Brennan's solemn and intimidating demeanor appears to be directed toward Colette Moreau. "If I ever have to tell you again, it'll be the last thing you hear," Brennan says in Tuesday's GH teaser video. Brennan may not be aware that Colette told Pascal about the WSB infiltration, but he will undoubtedly be concerned by her disrespect for his authority. Colette will be on thin ice and could pay a high price if Brennan discovers the extent of her WSB betrayal. Later, Anna Devane will persuade Brennan to cancel the operation and bring Jocelyn home, but he will be torn over whether that is the best decision. However, Brennan is unaware that things have already spun out of control at the Five Poppies Resort, where Jocelyn and Vaughn are being held captive somewhere on the grounds. Next, Cody Bell will tell Dante Falconeri that Christina Corinthos Davis paid Cody to seduce Ava away from Rick. When Dante wonders what Molly Lansing Davis has to do with any of this, Cody may realize he has genuine affections for her, and may have blown it now that she knows the whole truth. Molly may update Michael Corinthos on the Cody and Ava conflict, but she'll be more worried with Alexis Davis on Tuesday's show. Molly will be concerned that her mother has made a huge mistake when Alexis openly threatened Drew Kane over the restraining order. At Alexis' house, Ava simply whacked Rick in the head, leaving him with a bloody gash. Christina was stunned and will be much more concerned if Ava issues a threat. "If I fall, she will fall as well," Ava warns in Tuesday's preview clip. It appears that Alexis will enter the fray and confront Ava's threat to kill Christina over the vehicle catastrophe. Of course, if Ava reveals it, Alexis may also face embezzlement charges. Regardless, Ava may make it obvious that they will all pay if she ends herself in prison. If Rick dies as a result of that knock to the head, a dramatic cover-up may be on the way. General Hospital spoilers indicate that several surprises are still in store, so don't miss out on all of the action. General Hospital spoilers are available for Tuesday, August 26, 2025. Fans may expect Cody Bell to confide in Dante Falconeri. Lucy Coe looks to Jen Sidwell for assistance. Additionally, Ava Jerome issues an ultimatum. Continue reading, and let's discuss what's coming up on the ABC soap drama. Ava Jerome's ultimatum. Let's start with what she did to poor Rick Lansing. Ava whacked Rick over the head with a paperweight, and it's presumed he died. Christina Corinthos Davis, despite being a witness, has declined to comment. In a preview clip for tomorrow's episode, Ava tells Christina that if she goes down, so will she. It's assumed that Ava is talking to Alexis Davis. Jen Sidwell's solution. Lucy will open up to Sidwell. This must be related to Maxie Jones' poisoning. Lucy was a little too ready to disregard even testing the products, knowing full well that Maxie had rubbed that ointment on her face. In a preview clip, Sidwell assures Lucy that they will find a solution. "I'm wondering if this has anything to do with Maxie's poisoning. I don't believe Lucy would hurt Maxie, but perhaps she believes who did?" Dante Falconeri's Discovery General Hospital teasers for Tuesday, August 26 indicate that Cody will open up to Dante. As Dante listens, he questions what Molly Lansing Davis has to do with any of it. So Cody will have to explain much more than simply what happened today. Meanwhile, Molly meets with Michael Corinthos. Michael pushed Molly to spend more time with Cody. However, he will be astounded by what she says. Michael did not realize Cody was playing her, so he will be surprised by what Molly tells him. Molly then informs Michael that she has made a huge mistake. Is she talking about Ava or Christina? On Tuesday, August 26, 2025, fans will see Jack Brennan feeling conflicted. In a preview clip, Brennan issues a demand to agent Colette Moreau. The man says, "If I have to tell you again, it will be the last thing you hear." Anna Devane will also provide mission orders to the WSB boss, hoping he will do the right thing. Jocelyn Jax is in difficulty, and Anna will urge that the mission be terminated, but will it? Which narrative are you most looking forward to watching on Tuesday, August 26, 2025? Share your opinions in the comments area below. Remember to keep watching ABC soap operas to see what happens next. Ava's argument with Rick began with planned calm, but it quickly developed into something darker, more raw. She stood inches from him, her voice quiet but shaking with repressed rage, demanding answers about his tactics. Rick, as pompous as usual, attempted to alter the narrative, accusing her as if she had caused the entire calamity. But Ava was not fooled, and the deadly hush between them was broken when she murmured a warning that stopped him cold. Her words had the weight that only Ava Jerome could deliver, a threat of annihilation if he ever crossed her again. However, Rick was not the only difficulty. Brennan's return had changed everything in ways no one imagined. Brennan, formerly assumed to be a shadowy figure lurking on the outside of Port Charles, had suddenly emerged into the open, delivering a warning that might impact the lives of everyone tied to Sonny Corinthos and his enterprise. Brennan's informants had discovered something explosive, a conspiracy in motion long before anybody recognized it, a trap that would swallow Port Charles whole if no one responded quickly enough. The weight of what he knew worried him, but Brennan was not the type of man to make idle threats. When he met with Ava in the Metro Court's dimly lit back room, his voice was calm but harsh, and he spelled out the stakes with precise precision. "If you don't get ahead of this," he urged, his gaze locked on hers, "there won't be anything left to fight for." Ava's heart accelerated, but she kept her cool, refusing to show Brennan her fear. Nonetheless, his admonition left her shaken. He spoke of shadowy alliances emerging, people eager to burn everything down in order to re-establish power on their own terms. He alluded at betrayals that were already in the works, as well as foes who would strike unexpectedly. Meanwhile, Anna Devane was unraveling. She had spent years dealing with betrayal, danger, and heartache, but the weight of this new revelation was pushing her beyond her boundaries. The responsibility of leadership, her complicated relationship with Valentine, and the residual scars from previous decisions had made her vulnerable in ways she hated to accept. When she learnt about Brennan's intelligence report, her cool snapped. Even a slight crack was perilous for Anna, who was extremely controlled. Inside her PCPD office, Anna paced like a storm caged behind four walls, attempting to link the threads as quickly as possible. She had always taken pride in being one step ahead, but this time, she couldn't shake the notion that someone had outmaneuvered her. Her thoughts replayed Brennan's remarks, Rick's manipulations, and Ava's threats until they merged into a one unstoppable nightmare. Valentine discovered her there, slumped over a table covered in files, her hands holding the edge as if she could hold the entire world together if she didn't let go. He attempted to calm her down, to ground her in reason, but Anna's rage boiled over. She lashed out, not at him but at the situation, the tangled web of falsehoods and shifting loyalties that encircled them. She admitted in a rare moment of candor that she didn't know who to trust anymore, including herself. The tension in the city grew like wildfire. Ava, captivated by Rick's duplicity and Brennan's discoveries, began preparing her own plans behind the scenes. She phoned in old favors, contacted allies she hadn't spoken to in years, and braced herself for whatever storm lay ahead. Ava understood how to survive. She always had, but this time it meant more than just keeping herself safe. It meant safeguarding Avery, keeping her secrets, and ensuring that Rick Lansing did not have the ultimate word. However, Rick was not going down quietly. Furious with Ava's threats and eager to regain control, he began planning his own counterattack. He whispered in the proper ears, sowing seeds of suspicion, and slowly dismantling Ava's support system piece by piece. What he didn't realize was that Brennan had eyes everywhere, and his every movement was being monitored. Meanwhile, Brennan found himself drawn into perilous territory. Delivering the warning to Ava was only the first step. He needed to decide how far he was willing to go to prevent what was coming. The foes he mentioned had names. Their influence, money, and connections extended far beyond Port Charles. If they succeeded, Sonny's kingdom would not simply disintegrate. The regional power balance would shift overnight. As the pieces fell into place, Anna went deeper into Brennan's past, desperate to find out who he truly worked for. Her instincts told her that he was holding something back, and she was correct. Brennan ultimately revealed what she feared most. There was a mole inside the PCPD, passing information to the exact individuals she was trying to stop. That realization struck Anna like a blow to the chest. Her trust had been tested before, but this time was different. This was personal. Anna's slide continued after that. She hated herself for not noticing it sooner, for letting her guard down, and for allowing Port Charles to become a playground for those who thrived on chaos. Valentine attempted to keep her together, but even he could see she was slipping into dangerous area. Every sleepless night, every unanswered question wore away at her until the sharp, collected Anna Devane everyone knew gave way to someone more desperate, volatile, and willing to cross lines she said she would never do. Ava's desperation escalated, so she confronted Brennan again, insisting that he tell her everything he knew. This time she did not hold back. Her voice was sharp, her wrath was barely held, and Brennan matched her intensity squarely. He stated that Rick wasn't acting alone, and that someone higher up was using him as a pawn to manipulate events to their benefit. Ava's stomach plummeted as she understood how far the scheme went. If Rick was expendable, so was she. The information forced Ava to make a decision she had been avoiding. She contacted Sunny. Their history was convoluted, nasty, and filled with grudges that neither had truly forgiven. Yet Ava knew Sunny possessed resources she lacked. She presented it as a common interest, an opportunity to get ahead of a crisis that threatened them both. But Sunny could sense the desperation in her carefully selected words. Sunny agreed to listen but did not make any commitments. He had his own battles to fight and suspicions to handle, and the new player Brennan had brought into the mix only made everything worse. He told Ava that making the wrong move could cost her everything, but she was beyond caring. Survival was all that mattered now. Rick became increasingly reckless as the tides turned against him. During a late-night confrontation with Brennan, the tension escalated to violence. Words erupted into shoves, then fists, and toward the end, Brennan loomed over Rick, his face dark with wordless wrath. He didn't kill him, but his parting remarks had a finality that sent shivers down Rick's spine. "If you keep pushing, you won't walk away next time." News of the confrontation reached Anna, driving her even further towards the edge. Her hold on power was slipping quicker than ever, and with each new discovery, the weight of leadership pressed heavier. She sought answers, but each road led to more questions, lies, and confusion. When she finally stood alone in her office, staring out the window at the city lights, she understood how close she was to breaking. Ava, Brennan, Rick, and Anna were all caught up in a web of secrets and threats, with each action leading them deeper into danger. Nobody could trust anyone, and the distinction between friend and foe blurred until there was only one option left: survival. Everyone understood that the next move would change everything, because it wasn't only about power anymore. It wasn't all about control. It came down to who would survive the final blow, and who would be left standing amid the rubble of Port Charles. And as the storm built over the city, one thing became painfully clear: the actual war had yet to begin. Ava's world seemed to be falling beneath her, and each breath she took seemed heavier than the one before. Standing by the window of her apartment, she stared blankly at the skyline of Port Charles, the city that had given her everything while also taking it away. Her ultimatum had been delivered sharply and conclusively, but the consequences were far from ended. She'd drawn a line in the sand that she knew she couldn't cross now, but doubt gnawed at her mercilessly. Nicholas' lingering shadow haunted her. The tension between her and Sunny was suffocating, and Avery's safety hung over her like an unending storm cloud. She had ventured to state her desires openly, fully aware that pushing too far could make her the next target in a lethal game. But what other option did she have? Every secret she'd hidden, every betrayal she'd faced had led her to this point, where indecision could spell disaster. She recalled her most recent conversation with Brennan, a guy whose presence had grown both dangerous and mysterious. He did not raise his voice or make grandiose promises, but his calm, precise remarks chilled her to the bone. Brennan was unlike Cyrus, who thrived on chaos and intimidation. His danger sprang from his accuracy. There was nothing impetuous about him. He had plans inside plans, connections Ava couldn't see, and an agenda that was somehow related to everything going on in Port Charles. When he leaned across the table during their last encounter, lowering his voice so no one could hear, Ava felt a shudder run down her spine. "You're playing a very dangerous game, Ava," he warned, his piercing gaze fixed on hers. "And you are running out of moves. One false step, and it won't just be you who pays the price." The veiled threat was apparent, and while Ava tried to hide her dread with her customary sharp tongue and disdain, she couldn't escape the impression that Brennan knew her next move before she did. It wasn't just about money or power for him. There was something more, something related to the WSB and secrets buried so deeply that even Anna Devane, with all her knowledge, appeared to be scrambling to piece it together. Ava didn't want to be caught in the crossfire, but Brennan had a way of making everyone in his orbit a player, whether they wanted to or not. Meanwhile, Anna was fighting her own war, both personal and professional. When the newest WSB mission orders arrived, the relationship between her and the agency became colder, more rigid. They were sending her back into the field, demanding results, but the language in the orders was vague and loaded with implications she couldn't dismiss. There was rumors of a rogue faction and deep penetration within the agency, and her senses told her Brennan was involved in all of it. The conflict between duty and morality gnawed at her, pushing her to confront the difficult realization that the organization to which she had given her life might not be as pure as she had previously assumed. Robert had attempted to intercede, telling her to slow down and contemplate the big picture, but Anna's determination remained unyielding. She'd spent years cleaning up other people's mistakes, carrying secrets that had ruined relationships and lives, but this job seemed unique. This was larger than Cyrus' machinations or Victor Cassidy's manipulations. This was about international power, and if she failed, the implications may be far-reaching beyond Port Charles. Every line she followed led her back to Brennan. His connections, his stealthy maneuvering, and his unsettling ability to stay 10 steps ahead of everyone else. And yet, there was no clear proof linking him to the WSB's internal struggle, nothing concrete enough to justify his removal. That put Anna in the most hazardous position of all. Operating in the shadows, playing a game where trust was limited and treachery was unavoidable. Across town, Molly sat alone in her courthouse office, the weight of her emotions bearing down on her shoulders. The once confident assistant district attorney, always certain of her destiny, was now unraveling in silence. Her lament wasn't simply about her profession or the numerous cases stacking up on her desk. It was personal, emotional, and inextricably linked to the decisions she'd made and the life she thought she desired. Losing TJ had carved a wound that she wasn't sure would ever heal, and every time she attempted to distract herself with work, the emptiness became deeper. Christina's pregnancy had only made matters worse, reopening old scars that Molly had worked so hard to heal. She told herself she supported her sister and that she could handle the situation, but the truth gnawed at her when no one was looking. The baby, the plans, the unstable dynamics within the Davis family. It was all too much, and each moment reminded Molly of what she lacked and what she had lost. Alexis had tried to be there for her, offering advice and calm encouragement, but Molly felt disconnected, as if nothing anybody said could help her. Her anguish, coupled with resentment, boiled beneath the surface, and she despised herself for it. She wanted to be pleased for Christina, to be the sister everyone expected her to be, but every forced grin and every word of congratulations fell flat. In her most lonely moments, she replayed the fights with TJ in her head, the cruel silences that eventually swallowed their relationship whole, and wondered if she had made a mistake by leaving him. But deep down she knew it wasn't that simple. Nothing ever is. As the night extended in Port Charles, these individual storms began to merge into something larger and more dangerous. Ava's ultimatum had set off a chain reaction, which Brennan looked keen to capitalize on. If she backed down now, she would risk losing everything. Her safety, her daughter, and her independence. However, even if she held firm, Brennan's threat hung over everything she did. Anna, in her relentless quest of the truth, was unintentionally falling into Brennan's meticulously planned trap. Every mission order, sensitive dossier, and muttered name directed her exactly where he wanted her to go. She could feel it, sense it, but there was no going back without answers. The ghosts of her past, former lovers, lost allies, and broken loyalties, all warned her not to trust anyone. Molly, who appeared to be far distant from the drama Ava and Anna were experiencing, was on the verge of a breakdown. The legal fights she fought on a daily basis were virtually insignificant in comparison to the personal one that raged within her. However, without realizing it, her actions at the DA's office may soon connect with the same investigation Anna was directing, drawing her directly into a tempest she had no idea was developing. Back in her apartment, Ava poured herself a glass of wine that she hardly drank, pacing as her mind raced through every potential scenario. She'd dealt with dangerous men before and survived betrayals she'd never expected, but Brennan was unique. He wasn't impetuous or irresponsible. He was controlled, measured, and patient. That made him more deadly than anyone she had encountered, including Ryan and Victor. She kept reliving his words, the quiet, unwavering certainty in his voice, and wondered whether her ultimatum had sealed her fate rather than saved her. Sonny's name also stayed in her head. Despite everything, she knew she would eventually require his assistance, whether she wanted to accept it or not. But asking Sonny for anything came with conditions, and she wasn't sure she could bear the cost. Still, Brennan's influence was greater than Ava had anticipated, and without allies, she thought she was already outmatched. Anna sat in her dimly lit office at the PCPD, staring down at the secret files on her desk. Her senses warned her that she was stepping into a trap, that the WSB's demands were not as simple as they seemed, but she had no option. Port Charles had become a nexus for something much bigger than any single person, and if she didn't act quickly, countless lives may be jeopardized. The distinction between personal vendetta and professional obligation became increasingly blurred with each passing day. Her troubled relationship with Valentine lingered in the background, and his muted warnings added another layer of tension she couldn't ignore. He insisted Brennan had further ties to players they hadn't yet discovered, but Anna sensed Valentine wasn't telling her the whole truth. That was the problem, nobody was. Brennan watched and waited in the city's quiet nooks, planning his moves like a maestro playing a complex game of chess. Ava was one piece, Anna another, and Molly would soon find herself on the board, whether she knew it or not. Every dispute, grief, and secret in Port Charles was leading to a confrontation neither of them was ready for. Nothing would feel the same once the light came up. Ava's resolve would be tested, Brennan's influence would grow, Anna's trust in the WSB would erode, and Molly would be forced to make a decision that might alter everything, for her, her family, and the delicate balance of power in Port Charles. The walls were closing in, and deep down, they all knew there was no way out of the storm that had already started.